My name is Samantha, and today I'd like to share a big idea I have. But first, a story. Rewind to about 2004, I was 13 years old, and I have a very, very distinct memory of reading a magazine article that had a picture similar to this. I read the article and found out that this rock is called Preikestolen, and it's in the fjords of Norway. I thought, wow, this is a really incredibly beautiful place. And so I did what any teenage girl would do. I wrote about it in my diary. I wrote, I saw a picture of Norway a little while ago, and now I want to move there, I think. A bit of a bold claim, but I didn't see it any differently than a 5-year-old who might see a fire truck outside and decide they want to be a fireman. It was around this time that my family got our first computer in the house, so I was able to use the internet to research more about Norway, and my obsession quickly snowballed. I became known as the girl who was randomly obsessed with Norway, and everyone, especially my non-Norwegian family, which is my whole family by the way, thought that this was a phase that I would eventually grow out of. But as time passed, I only became more determined to go to Norway. Fast forward about 2009, I graduated from high school and decided to attend my local community college for 2 years before transferring. As I was looking for 4-year schools to transfer to, however, my biggest criteria was actually looking at whether or not they had a study abroad program in Norway. So in short, that's how I ended up at Ball State actually. Now to make a really long story short, I decided to study abroad, and on January 2nd, 2014, I fulfilled my lifelong dream and I landed in Oslo, Norway. And the 6 months I spent there were nothing short of the best of my life. Norway is where I met my current boyfriend, it's where I learned the skills that helped me gain my first post-college job, and where I made lifelong friends. So now back to this big idea I mentioned before. My big idea is this. I believe that every student should study abroad at least once in their undergraduate studies. According to the Institute of International Education, study abroad is on the rise, but less than 10% of students actually go. So now that I've explained a little bit of the reasons why I went, I want to delve into the reasons why 90% of students don't take advantage of this great opportunity. The first is cost. A lot of students think studying abroad is way too expensive for them, but they don't realize that studying abroad doesn't mean it has to break the bank. All of my financial aid carried over into my study abroad semester, including loans and grants, and I was able to apply for and even won some additional scholarships just for study abroad students. And in a lot of cases, studying abroad can cost the same, or in some cases even less than a semester at Ball State. In my case, it ended up costing a little bit more, but that's because Norway has been consistently ranked the #1 most expensive country in the world to live in. Lucky me. But program costs can depend on a lot of different things, such as the type, the location, how long you stay, etc. So before you write off study abroad completely, do a little research, and you'll likely find out it's more affordable than you think. A second reason is language. Language is a reason a lot of students hold off from studying abroad. But if you're really serious about wanting to learn a language, there's no better way than to immerse yourself completely into a new culture and be forced to practice the language every day. I guarantee you'll come home a lot better and a lot more fluent in the language after a semester than if you would just take a regular college class. But if you're still a bit skeptical, like I was, and afraid to take that leap, there are plenty of English-speaking programs, even in non-English-speaking countries. Norway, for example, where the official language is Norwegian, but English is common as a second language. And so not only were all of my classes in English, but it was so common that in the entire 6 months I was there, I counted, and I met only 3 people I was unable to communicate with in English. A third reason, and I learned some Norwegian for fun as well, including Jeg heter Sam, jeg kommer fra USA, og jeg snakker ikke norsk, which translates to, I am Sam, I come from the USA, and I speak no Norwegian. A third reason students might not go abroad is because of the planning it requires. It's a lot more in-depth and tedious than signing up for regular academic classes at Ball State. You have to make decisions like what country you want to go to, what program you want to be in. You have to apply for housing. You have to apply for visas. You have to get approval on forms signed by both Ball State and your university abroad. It can definitely be intimidating and a lot of work, but we have a great international center on campus that's more than happy to guide you through the process and help answer any questions you might have. A fourth reason students don't study abroad is fear of the unknown. Ball State has had an exchange agreement with my university in Norway for 5 years, and I was the first person to go on it. That could just be because nobody wants to go to Norway, but I think also it's because leaving what you're familiar with to a new place is very scary. My first week in Oslo, I slept a lot because everything I did was so mentally exhausting. Going to the grocery store, for example, and figuring out what everything was took a lot of my mental energy. Or for example, when I arrived from the airport, figuring out where my apartment was took me 2 hours, and I later realized it was just 10 minutes down the road, but that's another story. So now I want to talk to you about reasons why I think you should study abroad. I've covered why I studied abroad and reasons that might prevent some students from studying abroad, but now I'd like to give you 4 very specific reasons why I think you should. The first of which being travel. I don't think I need to explain to you that travel is a benefit of study abroad. I've never met anybody who says travel, ew, how boring. Traveling allows you to meet new people and visit new places. It opens your mind and broadens your perspective. A second reason is jobs. Like I said before, less than 10% of students study abroad, so studying abroad actually gives you a pretty competitive edge in the job market after graduation. Your employer will know that you're not afraid to try new things, that you have a global perspective, that you're able to problem solve, or that you're able to understand people different than yourself. A third reason is the friendships you'll make. The friendships you make abroad will last a lifetime. At the end of my semester, I, like many students, was a little reluctant to go home, and so I decided I was going to change my flight or extend my flight home by a month, and I was going to travel around Europe and visit the friends I had made in their home countries and visit places I had never been before. In that 1 month, I visited 6 countries, including Amsterdam, where I was there when they unfortunately lost the semifinals of the World Cup this summer, but I was mentioned in a national Dutch newspaper by my boyfriend, Jonathan, who referred to me or referenced me as his American girlfriend. I wasn't mentioned by name, but I'll take what I can get. Or as well, I climbed the Swiss Alps, and I got to see the famous Matterhorn mountain in Zermatt, Switzerland, which my parents like to call the Toblerone Candy Mountain. I also experienced Spanish hospitality when my friend's mom offered to make us homemade paella. My bonds with these people are incredibly strong, and even after being home for 9 months, I would consider them to be my best friends. The final reason students, I think that you should study abroad is because when else are you going to have this opportunity? It's highly unlikely you'll be able to leave your job or your family for such an extended period of time after you graduate, and you won't likely be eligible for the same financial assistance you are now. Traveling independently after graduation is not the same as studying abroad. When you study abroad, you live in the country. You're able to develop your language skills, explore a single place in depth, and really understand their culture and their people. You won't get that same experience at a hotel for a week. So after I came home, I was home for a few months, and I was contacted by the Norwegian Center for International Cooperation in Education. They asked me if I'd like to be interviewed about my experience in Norway. I said yes, very enthusiastically. I was more than happy to talk about my time in Norway, and they asked me to send them some photos of my time there because they had the intention that they would publish these photos along with my interview. But what I didn't know is that they would publish it actually on the official Study in Norway website, where they encourage students, all international students, to study in Norway. But one of the coolest things that happened was one of the photos I submitted to them and was published on the website is this next photo I'm about to show you. It's probably one of my favorite photos of my entire 6 months abroad, and it's this photo. This is a photo of me standing at the top of Preikestolen, which, if you'll remember, was the first slide I showed you. It was an incredible experience to come full circle, standing on top of the mountain that inspired me to go to Norway in the first place. So as you can see, I hope you can see, I am very passionate about study abroad. I believe that nobody has a real reason not to go. Even if it hasn't been your dream since you were 13 years old, like it was for me, I believe it's worth seriously looking into and considering because the opportunity will not be here forever. And I promise you, if you do decide to study abroad, your experience will be nothing short of amazing. Like I've mentioned, less than 10% of students study abroad, but I'd venture to guess that 0% regret their experience. Thank you.